So to continue in this part 2, discussing the similarity between Vespasian and Titus, the idea that the son was the express image or facsimile of the father uh, is such a concept in the New Testament that Mormonism depicts the father looking exactly the same as the son. In this illustration of Joseph Smith Jr.'s supposed first vision in the Grove, this illustration by Del Parson and it's based on Joseph Smith Jr.'s testimony of the first vision, at least some versions of it. So, and I think when I first showed that picture to a Trinitarian Christian, they were somewhat surprised that they looked so alike, but also that they were portrayed as two distinct personages. So we're continuing in John chapter 15. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. I think that branch or Netzer imagery might have something to do with messianism. Every branch of mine that bears no fruit he takes away, and every branch that does not, or that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. You are already made clean by the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me, and I in him, or dwells, I think is another way to translate abides, and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit, for apart from me you can do nothing. If a man does not abide in me, he is cast forth as a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you will, and it shall be done for you. But by this my Father, Vespasian, is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples, or soldiers. As the Father Vespasian has loved me, so have I loved you, my soldiers, and you abide in my love. If you keep my commandments or my orders, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments or orders and abide in his love. Jeez. John is like so simplistic and repetitive. Anyway, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. That's a soldier ethic right there. You are my friends if you do what I command you. So now it's friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you, that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, or remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. This I command you, to love one another. You already said that. If the world hates you, know that it has hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own, but because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. And really, that's kind of the life of a military man. He doesn't get to live the life of your typical civilian, at least when he's deployed. He's not of the world in that career. Remember, not the normal civilian world. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. By all this they will do to you on my account. Oh, but all this they will do to you on my account, because they do not know him who sent me, meaning Vespasian. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. This is a strange double negative, and trying to figure out what he's saying is best done by negating two of the negatives, one on each side. So if I had not come and spoken to them, they would not have sinned. You can extract the meaning out of that by saying, if I had come and spoken to them, they would have sinned. But now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. Which is pretty accurate. If you hated Titus, you probably hated Vespasian also. Just like people who hate Trump hate Ivanka Trump also, just even though her politics are somewhat left of her father. So many of Trump's family, even Barron Trump, who was just a child, was targeted with hate just because his father was running for president. Stupid. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would not have sinned. Again, another double negative. So if we say, if I had done among them the works which no one else did, they would have sinned. But now they have seen and hated both me and my Father. It is to fulfill the word that is written in their law, they hated me without a cause. Now this is, and we'll go back to that, but John 15:26, but when the Counselor comes, whom I shall send to you from the Father, even the Spirit of truth who proceeds from the Father, he will bear witness to me. And you are also witnesses because you have been with me from the beginning. So the legionnaires of the legions had been with Titus since he set out for Judea to join his father in the campaign. But notice verse 25. It is to fulfill the word that is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. This, let me see, I looked it up somewhere. Maybe it's not here. Anyway, Google AI pointed out that this was a quote of Psalms 69, verse 4. So it's a psalm. It's not in the Torah. Not only does he call a psalm the law, the Torah, but he also says in verse 25, it is to fulfill the word that is written in their law. So, so he's calling the Bible, right, the Hebrew Tanakh, the written Psalms. He's saying it's theirs. He's not saying it's his. So if he was supposedly born a Jew and thus obligated to do the 613 mitzvot of the commandments of the Torah, Why is he calling it their law? Because this isn't Jewish oral tradition. This isn't the Mishnah. It's not, you know, it's not, it's certainly not the Talmud. This is the Psalms. It's not the written Torah, it's the Psalms, but he also says their law. So, who said that? Did a Jewish man say that? Or did a Roman say that? Now, if we look at Psalms 69, verse 4, this is a psalm of David. And, you know, if you're familiar with the Psalms, the language is very familiar to you. It's like it almost sounds paranoid. You know, it's like a person who, because he's a leader, he's constantly besieged by everyone around him, or all his enemies surrounding him, right? It's anyway, and this is why the Psalms get mined so heavily for, you know, this martyr Messiah idea. So the quote is, "Those who hate me without a cause are more than the hairs of my head. They are mighty who would destroy me. Being my enemies wrongfully, though I have stolen nothing, I still must restore it." Now, look at the next verse. If this is really about Jesus, why in verse 5 does he say, "You know my foolishness, and my sins are not hidden from you"? Wait a second, I thought Jesus, you know, didn't commit any sins. So apparently this is just a proof text. It's not in context, you know, and that's common in the Gospels. So this is where here it tries to say which, it says in the scriptures, but specifically the Psalms, and then it tries to say which were also referred to as the law in a broader sense. But it makes no issue over the fact that it says their law, which, if we go to John 15 again, and we look at the Bibles, the other versions, they all say their law. No one has an issue with Jesus, a supposedly born Jew, calling this quote from the Psalms their law, as if it's not incumbent upon him. Now, the Torah is not, like, the Creator is not obligated to fulfill the Torah that I know of, because the Torah was given to the children of Israel. So, you might argue and say, well, it's because he's the Creator that it's not his law. Yet they saw it as necessary that he be born a Jew in order to become the Messiah, and his being born a Jew means that the Torah is an obligation for him. Anyway, all the translations say there. None of them even dare to say our law. And English translations do that a lot. They will change the meaning of the wording to make it make more sense. But apparently the Christian translators even had no problem with him, with a supposedly born Jew, referring to this as their law, as if he had nothing to do with it. And this was the word that was translated in Psalms 69:5 as sins. It's translated trespasses 13 times, sin 4 times. I don't think that really fits the Christian description of Jesus. So, now, as I was looking for these pictures of the Father and the Son looking similar to each other, at least in Mormonism, I came across this article about an art show in Provo. That's where Brigham Young University is. Provo, Utah. That's just like a little bit north from where Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And this art show was to feature diverse paintings by Latter-day Saints or Mormons from around the world. And here they appear to make an effort to get this one right, but they say that this was done by a Filipino-American artist. And they're trying to say that the George Floyd killing represented a turning point. So she began posting artwork of a decidedly darker Jesus to her Instagram account, bracing for pushback. Instead, she received a flood of supportive messages, many from fellow Latter-day Saints. Now, see, the problem, or the reason why this is possible, is because nobody knows what the Jesus of the surface reading of the good news accounts looks like. Because though they say he was a historical person, there's no artwork, and you could say, well, that's because he lived in a Jewish culture that didn't believe in having images of people, and that's fine, but you've got little girls passing out mini Jesus statues to people in a religion that's supposed to eschew idolatry, and for whom the express image of the Father in the person of the Son ought to be enough for them. And that just shows, like, idolatry begets more idolatry, right? As soon as you allow some idolatry in your belief system, well, then you've opened the gate and you're just going to let the flood of idolatry in. And that's what all these pictures are. These are supposed to be God the Son, or according to Mormon theology, YHVH, but they're making pictures of him. And this one, at least, he looks somewhat Middle Eastern. But then, and I don't know, this guy, I guess he might look a little Middle Eastern. then you've got, and maybe this one, I guess is that supposed to be Mary and her baby Jesus? I don't know. But this is not quite as bad as the dualism from black Hebrew Israelites that would picture Jesus as of the darkest skin, which it's a black reaction to a kind of white stupidity, right? If you really do believe that Jesus was a Jew born in the first century in Galilee or Bethlehem in Judea, then you would think you would want to know, like, what the color of the skin of the children of Israel was in the first century. Well, the Mishnah actually records that. The Mishnah, it comes from about 200 BC to 200 AD, and it's commentary on the commandments of the written Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the law of God. In the Mishnah, Rabbi Ishmael described the children of Israel as having a skin tone like boxwood, meaning an intermediate mid-brown shade, neither black nor white. And that's the thing, is that dualism wants to tear a people in two by pitting one extreme against another extreme. So you got the white supremacists that'll say that Jesus was white, and then you've got the black supremacists that will say that Jesus is black. Meanwhile, he's supposed to have been born a Jew, and no one's bothering to even ask the question, what did Jewish skin tone look like in the first century? Now, this quote appears in Mishnah Nagaim, which I think that word means signs, which discusses the diagnosis of Zara'at, a biblical skin disease often translated as leprosy. The discussion addresses how the appearance of the ailment changes depending on a person's skin tone. So see, the discussion is not at all about race or appearance. To like say that one race is better than another race. It doesn't even posit that. It's dealing with a basically medical diagnosis of the signs of leprosy. It says the contrast with other skin tones. The text contrasts the Israelite complexion with the skin tones of a German, meaning a person from Northern Europe, or more broadly a light-skinned person, and an Ethiopian, a dark-skinned person. The rabbis noted that the same skin blemish would appear differently on these individuals. A standard for judgment, which would also suggest that that there were white-skinned and dark-skinned or black-skinned converts to Judaism at that time. A standard, because these laws are dealing with people who live within the borders of biblical Israel. Now, there could have been, like B'nai Noach or Gerim, strangers residing in the land, perhaps. But then again, these laws apply to the children of Israel. A standard for judgment. Rabbi Ishmael's statement establishes the average Israelite complexion as the standard for judging Zara'at. Since the laws were given to Israel, this intermediate shade is compared to the color of boxwood, a light brown. Discussions on race. Modern scholars highlight this passage to show that the ancient rabbis understood a range of skin tones, and that the ancient, which would be exactly what you would expect in the Mediterranean. and that the ancient Jewish population was not phenotypically white in the modern European sense. The quote reflects the likely Mediterranean complexion of ancient Israelites. So what does boxwood look like? It looks like this over here on the right. That's a cross-section of boxwood. Now there are some other pictures here of boxwood, but I think that the lighting is not real great in these pictures. Like this one looks a little better. That shows some of the color in the skin. But like this one, again, I'm colorblind, so maybe I'm not seeing some of the color you are, but to me that's almost black and white looking, like grayscale. And then this one isn't much better. But where did that other picture go of boxwood? Right here. This looks like many of the cross-section pictures I've seen of boxwood. And that happens to be the skin tone of many native Israelis today. What a coinky-dink. But you won't hear the racists even touching this topic. So you see why I say that this picture looks like, possibly pretty good representation of what a Middle Eastern might look like. The problem is that because we have no idea what Jesus looked like, and we can write that off as because he grew up in a culture that didn't like images, and yet the Christianity born from him loves images. What we do have are all of the many busts of Vespasian, the father, and Titus Flavius, the son. So we do get some idea what each of them looked like, because they were real historical personalities, granted in a culture that didn't have any reservations about recording a person's appearance, however flattering or unflattering or embellished it might be, depending on the artist and their agenda. So now there is like a spurious, I don't know if you want to call it apocryphal text. If you want my opinion, it sounds like it's written by a gay monk somewhere, where he he pretends to describe the appearance of Jesus, and he talks about how he has long flowing blonde locks, which blonde might even be a reference to like lighter brown in some cases, but he seems to be really enjoying writing about the luxurious appearance of Jesus, which is why I think he sounds like he might have been gay. But he makes a mistake, because he talks about how he spoke with more persuasion or eloquence or something rather than all of the other teachers or prophets of his day. So that just shows that the narrator couldn't even remove himself from the narrative he was trying to create enough to keep from saying of his day, thus showing that he was external to the period of time in which this narrative was supposed to have taken place. So it's garbage, it's baloney. You know, some monk somewhere had a fantasy and he wanted to describe Jesus's appearance, you know, to just like Christian fiction wants to fill in all the plot holes that they don't understand, and you know, as if their scriptures aren't good enough. So anyway, that was me covering the similarity of the appearance of Vespasian and Titus, and why we can read about some of that similarity in the Gospel of John.